All right, welcome to the Party Pals GRC Mafia. So this is another one of the sessions regarding like the occupational side of everything and so forth. And Matthew's going to be presenting here in a moment. But also right out of the gate here, we're here to break down barriers, foster collaboration and community, working towards a more secure future for everybody. Definitely a learning and growing environment. Everybody's encouraged to ask questions, share resources, even if it doesn't pertain to exactly what we're talking about. Worst case scenario, we could circle back around to that at a later time. Also, a really awesome resource is going to be our Discord server. I'm going to go ahead and drop that in chat. If you're not already in our Discord server, you could go through and share links through the live chat channel. You can also go through and share like your LinkedIn or Facebook or other social media if you'd like to connect with everybody as well. Don't share anything that you don't want to be public. If you happen to do so, reach out to me on Discord, LinkedIn, or contact at studygrc.org. So typically we do the open stage, open discussion, and so forth. This is the presentation regarding the occupational safety side of things. However, if you guys would like to come up and ask a question or otherwise, definitely just let me know. I could drop the stage link for that as well. Otherwise, I'll also be marking out questions throughout the presentation too. And then Matthew's LinkedIn is also going to be in the description, so that way you can also connect with him on LinkedIn, ask him questions after the stream itself too. If you guys aren't familiar, B-Dubs also has a cybersecurity GRC blog article that goes out every single Monday, and then also has a complete CISSP study group freely available on YouTube as well. Those links are also going in the chat. And then of course we have our website and our resources page too, with some additional information and resources out there. And then I'm going to go ahead and transition over and we'll go ahead and get the party started here. Welcome to the Party Pal, Matthew, and I'll go ahead and hand it over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today.
I'll get it back up here in just a second. There we go.
So we're going to be talking about hazard recognition today. This goes along with what we talked about a few months ago with the Focus 5. This goes more in depth in it. This month, it's Safety Awareness Month. So overall safety awareness. So this is going to be our monthly topic. So hazards are pretty straightforward. They all have potential for harm. They all have wide impact. They can affect people just walking by. They can affect vehicles. They can affect infrastructure. Anything that can cause a negative impact can be considered a hazard. They come in many different forms, from chemicals and substances to just unsafe working conditions like heat, or people not wearing PPE would be a hazard. Not following SOPs. It's pretty straightforward to prevent them. First, we have to identify them. Once we identify them, we can work at compliances to make sure that we're following all state and federal compliances for our area. And as I always say, we should always go beyond the state and federal regulations to make our facilities safer and lower our incident rates. Which, with having legal compliance, we will see cost reduction. We would be spending less on insurance, less time that our employees are away from work, which means more time doing production. And once we get the cost reduction, we start seeing the benefits of it, then we can start working even more on prevention to make our facilities even safer. which should be our 100% goal. There's a bunch of different types of workplace hazards also. We have physical, like noise, poor lighting, um, wrenches slipping, stuff along those lines. Extreme temperatures would be physical. Even radiation is one that people usually think would be a chemical, but that's actually considered a physical hazard because it's physically there. You have the chemical hazards, gases like propane letting off fumes. You have vapors if your facility uses different chemicals like xylene, for example, lets off really harmful fumes. And you have toxic substances. In the industrial world we live in now, there are toxic substances in a lot of facilities. Uh, a lot of times they are required to do our jobs. So knowing what those toxic substances are and if you're working with them frequently, reviewing the SDS sheets for the standardization of the chemicals. Uh, that SDS sheet will tell you all the first aid measures to take if you become overly exposed to it. And it'll also have helpful guides on how to store it. Uh, if you need to go to the hospital, if you become contaminated with it, like if you swallow, inhale, or if you just get it on your skin. We have biological hazards. A lot of people don't realize this, but that is a workplace hazard. People coming in sick, for example, with the flu, that's considered a workplace hazard. If people are sick and you know someone's sick, let people know. We don't want that flu virus or whatever else someone may come in with spreading around. And then also mold. If you notice mold buildup in a specific part of a work environment, letting higher ups know that could do something about it. Like might be your maintenance team, it might be janitors, it might be a supervisor. You have to let know. Then we have ergonomic conditions. So this is movements that you have to make to perform your job, whether that's in a lot of people's cases sitting in a chair for 6 to 8 hours, knowing the risks of doing that, such as back issues, joint issues, and trying to take proper measures to prevent that sort of thing, like getting up every 20-25 minutes and just walking for a few minutes around your workspace and then sitting back and getting back to work can prevent a serious injury from becoming a thing and will keep you at work longer. Another thing is repetitive movements. If you're working on like a production line, uh, all of those repetitive movements from doing the same action over and over and over again can really build up some injuries and can put you out of work for a long period of time and can also cause you to have surgery, can cause you to have to go on medications and have to go on work restrictions. And then you have the general safety stuff I always mention, and all of these fall under physical conditions or ergonomic conditions. Uh, but they're a good thing that I like pointing out just so people keep their eyes out for it, like slip, trips, and falls, and machinery danger. All of those are physical conditions, but they deserve their own shout out because they account for a large amount of workplace injuries, and we want to prevent them as much as possible. Then we have psychological. Not a lot of people think about this one. We talked about it in our last talk, the psychological part of workplace safety. You have the stress, you have excessive overload and polar culture. All of those things will make your employees not happy. They won't want to come to work. They won't be as productive. And we want everyone to be happy. We want people coming into work the same way they leave work, vice versa. And all of these are very easy to recognize and prevent. And if you can't prevent it 100%, you can at least minimize the impact. Like with our workload stress, there comes parts in our lives that with our work that we're going to have to do more than usual. We're going to have to be given 110% for a longer period of time, and we can't really prevent that, but we can at least minimize it. And maybe during those times, you can do extra things for your employees to make them happy, relieve a little bit of stress off their shoulders. Like instead of expecting them to get 10 hours of work done in 8 hours, give them an hour of overtime to get that 10 hours of work done. Then you're still getting 10 hours of work done in 9 hours, but they're also getting paid time and a half for that overtime. So, hazard identification. A lot of things are pretty standard here. Routine inspections are the best way to spot potential hazards. Uh, just going out on the floor once a week, once every 2 weeks, doing inspections in specific areas and ensuring that everything is to standard in those areas. Along with your inspections, you should talk with the employees, ask them how they're doing, if there's anything that you can do for them. Utilizing our instant investigations when we talk to someone that just injured themselves. You don't just need the facts. Ask the person what their opinion is on it. How can we prevent this in the future? How can we possibly curve any of these injuries from happening again? And if they have any recommendations for possible admin or engineering controls that can be implemented. Employee reports. These are an amazing tool that we can use in facilities. Having a no risk way of employees reporting where they can do it completely anonymously. And even if they choose to be known who filed the report about it, not having any type of retaliation towards them, no matter how weak or how bad the report is, it should be taken seriously. And have reviews. Whenever you have a new equipment coming in, a new chemical coming in, or a new SOP being implemented, not just the safety professional in your facility should review that. It should be the safety professional, the people working with the equipment, the engineers, all the bosses. Everyone should have a say in how these things get implemented, along with the safety stuff with them. If you feel like a machine needs light screens, like, make your opinions known and make sure that you guys are analyzing these things for hazards and potential risks so that way you can get ahead of the injury rate and curve it before it even happens. So these are some real world examples. We have physical hazards. As you can see, there's water on the floor. There's also a bucket more towards the walkway in this photo. Both of those cause hazards. If you have an item in the floor with the walkways, you should have something notifying people where they can see if they're looking just straight forward, they can see it. Weighs say roughly 3 feet above the ground. You should have some type of warning that there's an item there. And wet floors should have a wet floor sign, or you guys should immediately take care of that, mop it up, dry it off, put a fan there if needed, so that way it dries quicker, so no one slips, no one trips, no one falls, no one gets injured. Chemical exposure. All chemicals are required to have labels. Those labels are with the GHS. It's a global harmonized system for chemical storage. And the labels pretty much state what the chemical name is. It has hazard pentagrams, whether it's flammable, corrosive, oxidizing, or if it's neutral. Every single storage container is required to have them. So that way, if something happens, like it spills or it gets on somebody, that person can look at the container and go, okay, this is what's in this bottle. Now, what do I need to do for first aid? And I do have a link here that can be shared that goes over the HAZCOM with OSHA, that goes over the chemical storage and all of that fun stuff. Just drop that in the chat. And then Inadequate protection. So missing or improper PPE. PPE is an amazing tool, but we have to make sure that people are not just wearing them, but wearing them properly. A lot of times in the factory that I work in, people will get gloves that are too large for their hands, for example, which can cause an issue with gripping things, uh, which people should point out, like, hey, try a size smaller. Or very common with full body harnesses where people don't cinch the thigh straps in properly, which can then cause injury if they end up having to use that harness in a fall. Along with hearing protection, it's very common with the little foam hearing protection that people just slide them in their ears and forget about it. You're supposed to roll them in your finger and slim them up a bit and then push them into your ear canals. So that way they make a proper seal to be able to protect your hearing. So hazard assessments, pretty straightforward. It's what we just went over. We identify hazards, spot those potentials, then we analyze the risk. What's the chances that someone is going to actually get injured by this? Is it worth curving it and fixing the problem? How much time are we going to have to spend on fixing that problem? And then prioritize it. If you have a slip and trip hazard that's like just barely in the walkway, and then on the other side, you have a machine that someone's smashed their hand in and needs a light screen or a pressure sensor or something along those lines. We might want to focus on the machine first, get that worked out, then the slip, trip, and fall hazard if they're going to take roughly the same time. The slip, trip, and fall hazard is just moving a bucket over. Move it over real quick. So managing hazards, we talked about the hierarchy of controls in our Focus 5 talk. So we have the admin controls, engineering controls, substitution, and elimination. Elimination's always our last course of option, but is generally the highest effective because you're removing the hazard completely, but can be extremely expensive to do so. You have engineering controls, that's going to be machine guards, ventilation systems, anything where you're physically putting some type of barrier or sensor in to prevent a injury. Then you have admin controls. Admin controls are anything that is a SOP or PPE, something you're telling your employees to do differently about their job. If you want them wearing safety glasses, safety gloves, steel toe boots, all of those are admin controls. Or if you want to develop an SOP that will change how they perform their duties, like instead of reaching over a machine to be able to align something, having them get into the machine instead so they aren't overstretching. That would be an admin control. Admin controls can be very effective if used properly, but the downside is used properly because you have to trust your employees and you have to have a good workplace culture on safety to be able to trust your employees and ensure that they're going to follow those SOPs correctly. And gain insights. Look at your trends. If you're for some reason getting a lot of workplace injuries in the summertime but not in the wintertime, there might be something happening in the summertime that's causing people to be more fatigued, like they're going out and having fun before work and all of that, and it's causing them to be fatigued at work, which is causing injuries. But identify those patterns and find out why those patterns are happening. Generate those insights and make a safety recommendation to be able to curb it. We want to be able to curb injuries. We can't prevent them all, but we can try our best. We can make implement the changes that we recommend and collect the data once we implement those changes. Uh, we can talk to the employees, go out on the floor, make sure that everything we're implementing is correct. And that concludes our talk today. I saw a few questions.
Yeah. So, are you guys familiar with lessons learned on that side of it?
What do you mean by lessons learned? Like if we make a mistake, we learn from the.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like, especially on the cybersecurity realm, lessons learned would be like, oh, we had an incident occur, and then we would have like a tabletop exercise to take what we learned from that and apply it.
Yes, yes. Whenever major injuries happen, people will get together. That's one thought process around toolbox talks, for example, is taking injuries that have happened in the past week in a workplace and having a quick talk about them to be able to show everyone, like, hey, this person did this. This is what happened. We don't want that happening to you. Let's learn from this and move forward. Same with us. If a safety professional implements something that does not work, when they're going to learn from that mistake and they're going to not implement something like that again, or if they're going to, they're going to put a lot more caution into doing so.
Yeah. Yeah, I know that part makes sense. And then I also went back to slide 4 here because the types of workplace hazards, I feel like this isn't even complete. Like this is just an idea of like some of the different stuff.
Yeah,
But
this is a general basis that you'll see in almost every facility. Uh, even grocery stores have chemicals. Uh, You have biological everywhere. You have ergonomic issues everywhere. Same with physical and psychological issues. They are everywhere. There's, of course, more if you get into like specific areas. Like if you go into the mining field, you also have more physical hazards like cave-ins and rocks falling and all of that fun stuff. And you have vibration from the tools you're using. Uh, go
and then
into
with the page that you also shared, does this outline like any types of like recommended mitigations, or is it just like talking about the hazards themselves?
So this is a HAZCOM overview for OSHA. It talks about their requirements for workplaces.
Hmm.
Yep, that's the site we have up now. Uh, so it talks about how the HAZCOM changed because it did change at one point. We use a global harmonized system now, which is awesome because it's on the global aspect. So if you order chemicals from China or Russia, they are going to have the same standard pentagrams as if you ordered them from a facility here in the US. The
I see.
only exception with that being is Department of Transportation here in the United States has their own pentagrams. They use their own system. So if you're working a facility that has DOT also, and you guys are shipping chemicals, that can cause a lot of confusion because your drivers are looking at their DOT stuff and you have to advise on both sides of it.
And also another thing, since we both have like more of an industrial labor background as well, something else that I've also noticed is that a lot of businesses are like, "Oh, we don't work with anything hazardous. We don't have to worry about that." But like, even if you're not manufacturing it, your employees may still be interacting with something that could cause harm,
Yes. Well, and
cleaning materials.
yeah, well, and a lot in the past, at places we've worked at, they've done like mixtures, like a 10%, 90% bleach. Well, 10% bleach, 90% water. And
Hmm.
they'll just fill that up in a little spray bottle with no labeling, nothing. And even with it being 10% bleach, which doesn't sound like a lot, that still will burn your skin. And if you
Yeah,
drink that, that will burn your insides. So
yeah. I
having that
actually had a real
label.
world situation where I was using a pressure washer and the water's mixed with a degreaser, and that actually burned. That actually caused chemical burns.
Yep. And
So
they most likely, if they're not notifying you about that sooner than later, they most likely did not have proper SDS sheets on site either. So if you ended up actually suffering severe from that and needing first aid, you guys wouldn't have had a resource to go to identify what first aid measures to take.
yeah, like Cam mentions too, running around with aerosol cans and cleaning supplies.
Yeah. Uh, cleaning people, their whole job is focused around chemicals.
And then
And
also
there's
Cam
a
has a
lot of
question
safer
here.
chemicals too. Like, not all chemicals are bad. There's organic, neutral chemicals that you can use that do not cause issues to the human body.
And those still have to be labeled, though. That's one of the
Yes.
important factors, just so that way, because I mean, even if it's not dangerous, it could still cause skin or eye irritation, for an example.
Well, and a lot of the neutral chemicals, they cause environmental impact because they're neutral. They'll live in the environment for decades before decomposing. We've seen that with Teflon. Teflon's extremely neutral. It's not very harmful to humans unless it's heated to high temperatures. Uh, but it's decimated our ecosystems.
Yeah, if you guys want to go on a deep dive on that, that's a really good one. Dew Point and Teflon and their early
DuPont.
history.
Yeah,
Dumont. Yeah.
yeah. And well, 3M was in that too. Uh,
Yep. Literally poisoned the entire globe. It's a really interesting deep dive.
Yeah, off of just those 3, companies, uh, the forever chemicals that are in our ecosystem and in our bodies, roughly 98% of the world population, last I heard, it's either 93 or 98% has their forever chemicals in their body.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just listening to an article about that just like a week or two ago. And yeah, the large majority of the population globally has a form of their chemicals in their bloodstream because they poison the water supplies. Um, but yeah, and then we do have this other question from Cam too. So, do you ever run a tabletop exercise of sorts in an OSHA or EHS setting? Sort of scenario based learning. So, tabletop in regards to like you guys come up with different scenarios and then how you would respond and react.
Yes. So, we have our standard ones that almost every employer does with fire alarm drills, tornado drills, extreme weather. But in the factory that I work in, uh, every single manufacturing month or safety month, which is actually this month, they'll have exercises throughout the month. Sometimes one day, sometimes a couple days, kind of depends on production. Uh, where we'll set up mock hazards and people will come through. We did it last year in a specific department in a R&D area. We'll have like little trip hazards and electrical hazards that are safe. We don't have power to go into them. And people come through with clipboards and they'll mark down what hazards they notice and we'll tell them like, yeah, yeah, you noticed all of these, but keep in mind for this and this and this. They'll get like a bag of chips or candy or something like that for participating.
Do you find that those programs are effective?
Yes. Yes, because it gets people thinking. Even if they don't have a lot of urge to think about safety, it at least gets in the back of their mind where they're like, "Hey, yeah, I'll go learn a little bit about safety to get a candy," but at least they learned a little bit to be able to recognize things.
Yeah, like budget is a huge factor in trying to get buy-in from C-suite or the executives and so forth. And I
Yeah.
feel like that's also how that's also where you would get pushback because they're like, "Oh, we don't want the, employees, sitting around watching this or whatever for 45 minutes." Like, yeah.
Yeah, well, and that's where, you argue with the amount of money saved, with having your employees there, them happy, them not on leave for an injury, and the more and more safety things you can implement, the better in the long run. Granted, like, you can't bubble proof the whole building, but you can take it as far as you can.
Yeah. And then we also have this question from AB. Maybe you addressed it earlier, but what's the best way to identify hidden or less obvious hazards during routine tasks?
So, during routine tasks kinda make it difficult because you're focusing on the task. So more rare hazards you're not going to really be thinking about, but that's where your inspection comes in. Having a area inspection where just the people in the area will walk around once a day or once a week with a little clipboard that has a bunch of different hazards that they should look out for. They can go through that checklist, and it should realistically, in a okay sized work area, should only take about 10 minutes, maybe 15, where they can
Yeah,
mark yes or no on the hazards and explain what hazards they did find.
yeah, and I'm sure there's a name for it. I don't recall it offhand, but then there's also like a type of task that the safety team can do too, where you observe the employees working and so forth to try to identify risks, like through the work process.
Yep, observing, people while working, to be able to view their ergonomics is very, very common. So that way you can see how they're stretching and how they're moving, and if an area is having a lot of overstretching, muscles pulled, stuff like that, that's a really good thing to do to be able to figure out why they're having those muscle strains.
Yeah, and then also there's another document that may influence too. A JH something job hazard.
JHS,
Yeah,
job hazard,
JHS.
yeah, JSA, sorry, job safety
Yeah,
analysis,
yeah. Which
which,
then, yeah,
depending
if
your
you wanted to describe
area.
that.
Yeah, JSAs, depending your work environment may be required. A lot of construction sites require them, where they have to go through the JSA and identify that the work is going to be done safely and any type of issues that may arise. Then also one thing that's awesome on those forms is there's a place to mark down the nearest emergency center, so hospital, along with the non-emergency number for police if you're having a non-emergency, along with any other emergency numbers, which is awesome to have because then if something does happen, you have those numbers readily available. Uh,
Bam.
the only downside is that's the admin control. So you gotta trust your employees to fill it out right and have someone that is very, very good, like a foreman or supervisor performing it.
Now,
Yep.
do you really hear about many companies going through and completing like a JHA or S for like permanent roles? So, like if you're working in a factory on this particular position, is that common practice or is that just too much time?
So they do workplace inspections instead. So there'll be
Okay.
work site inspection forms that they'll use instead, since a lot of the information on that form is not applicable. Because
Okay.
you don't need to know the nearest hospital if you've been working in this area for 6 months. Uh, you guys should already have that posted permanently somewhere in the facility, or a
Yeah.
supervisor should have that in a booklet. You don't need to fill that part out, and anything else on there will already be on an inspection form.
Yeah, and also like Cam mentions that any general construction site requiring a HA for any work taking place. I think a large portion of this also has to do with like the company's insurance as well as like a requirement.
Yep, yep, that's a possibility too. Um, Along with covering their bases with OSHA, because OSHA does have the general duties clause too. So anything they can do to prevent a known hazard, they need to do.
Yeah, and then also AB is asking about near miss reports. So, did you want to give a little bit of a rundown about like how you would handle a near miss report or how that's typically handled? You'd say.
Yeah, near miss reports are extremely, extremely important because near miss reports are what prevent further injuries. If you have a near miss, even if it's a rare occurrence, like a forklift almost backs into you, but you were able to get out of the way or the driver saw you just in time to stop, those still need to be reported so that way the employer knows what happened. And if you're working for a decent employer, they're not going to write you up or anything like that for a near miss. They'll educate you and may do retraining, which is maybe what needs to be done. But with a near miss, that hazard can be controlled before someone actually gets injured by it. Uh, if you almost slip and fall in some water or a bucket that's like usually there, filing a near miss report can make the company go, okay, yeah, we really should. We've let this slide for a while. We really should be taking this more seriously.
Yeah, and I think a big portion of this, especially from the practitioner side of things, is this is proactive. So you're trying to prevent a more expensive occurrence from happening. Like if somebody reports that like, oh hey, this is a blind corner and I almost ran over somebody with the forklift, then maybe installing mirrors or some type of mitigations is in order, so that way you're not murdering somebody on the floor.
I'm pulling this up right now. There is a metric that we use to.
There's so many different terms and everything else. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So Hierarch's triangle. So I'll post a little image of it real quick. If I can get it to go. I'll just send the Wikipedia link because it shows the actual triangle itself. So this falls in with near miss reports. So our bottom of the triangle would be accidents with no injuries or near misses. And then you have accidents with injuries and major injuries. And the idea is, and we have this implemented in the facility that I work in. The idea is that for every accident with minor injuries, there should be X amount with no injuries and X amount of major injuries. So it shows that the more near misses you get reported, the less you're going to have over time, because you'll be able to be proactive and curve the injury before it happens. And it's a very common metric in safety for using these in workplaces, especially I've noticed in the industrial setting.
Yeah, and I went ahead and dropped that link in chat as well for this Wikipedia page. So I think this is probably a better graph than the first one.
Yeah.
But yeah. And this is also like why we want to bring more light to this as well, because like especially in our circles, we're talking a lot about cybersecurity, but there's way more risk out there. And I mean, do you have a ballpark figure of how much this costs companies for occupational safety?
Occupational safety, it depends on the field. I believe I remember during our last talk, I believe it was with the psych side of things, is that it's estimated in the 900,000s to cost companies yearly
Yeah.
on just
I'm
the
sure that,
psychological side.
yeah, I'm sure on a national scale, it's got to be in the billions. So,
Oh yeah, oh yeah. When we talked about the vehicle accidents, those were in the 100 millions
yeah,
or no billions on just accidents between U.S. and Canada that cost U.S. companies.
yeah. And then, did you have anything else to include or anything else that you wanted to share? If you guys have any other questions, definitely feel free to drop that now. I'm also going to go ahead and drop Matthew's LinkedIn as if you want to go ahead and connect with him. Go ahead.
Yep, that's a good point out too, Cam. He commented how the liability and insurance can also be based off a similar pyramid.
Oh, yeah. Um, AB, not a question. I see that the US currently has strong demand for rules and hazard recognition, near miss reporting, EHS compliance, and related safety work, mainly in the major metro areas.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of incentives in the safety field because companies have realized that being proactive in safety and having people on your staff is very financially benefiting. Because a lot of these companies, in the long run, they just want to make money, and that's the reason why we make a company. But they've realized that they can make a lot more money caring more about safety than taking shortcuts.
And to add some additional context, to be completely honest, think about it. A company may get breached every 10 years, for an example, but they're most likely paying out something every single year towards medical insurance and injuries and so forth annually. And that's an ongoing cost to the business. So, like, the safety aspect is way more of a cost than the cybersecurity side of things when you really look at it. Like in cybersecurity, we're going through and we're trying to be proactive about it. We're trying to prevent those breaches, the information security, reducing that risk. But also realistically, if you look at the statistics, yeah, you can be breached at any time. It's not if, but when. But also a lot of these, especially manufacturing, industrial, and so forth, labor, the safety cost is always there. So reducing that and identifying that as a risk and taking that seriously. When a company, let's say somebody opens up a construction company and they get their first bill for $6 million because somebody lost their hand or something, they're going to be taking that safety portion way more serious moving forward.
Hand usually costs under 100,000.
That's the other. You could probably do a video on that factor too,
Uh,
because I know like insurance companies and so forth have a breakdown of like what body parts cost.
yeah, there is a website that I remember seeing a
Oh,
few months ago that actually broke down every single body part in every single state and how much it's required in that state to pay out.
yeah, and we've now been, our YouTube channel is now locked. But yeah, definitely go through, connect with Matthew if you guys have any other questions or otherwise. And then I believe the next video is going to be on the 25th,
Yep.
coming up as well. So we're going to be doing this twice a month.
Yep, and the next video is going to be preparing for medical crisis. It's going to be going over first response teams, what you guys should prepare to do, and what you guys should do in medical crisis.
Bam. Oh, Cam, who's your hand guy? You're paying way too much. Exactly.
Well, and
Yeah,
that whole hand thing, that's not just the cost that like the $100,000 rough figure is not the cost that gets paid out to the employee that lost his hand. That's like everything going into it, from the insurance, the transport to medical, for them to go to the hospital, the aftercare for rehab and all of that fun stuff, and their payout.
Yeah, exactly. Possible negligence. There's so many different factors involved with that. But yeah, thank you guys for joining us today. We're going to go ahead and bring this to an end. Definitely connect with Matthew. And then also I'll catch you guys tomorrow for our Thursday stream as well. We'll have Kelly coming up talking about GRC being just a cost center, and maybe a little bit about how, we could look at the metrics and kind of prove its value add to the organizations. Thank you for joining us, Matthew.